I'll never forget that knock, 3 sharp hits on my apartment door at exactly 12:01 a.m. Not the friendly tap of a neighbor, not the heavy-handed thud of a delivery driver. This knock was different, desperate, panicked, the kind that makes your pulse spike before your mind can catch up. I was in sweatpants, brushing my teeth, ready to call it a night when it echoed through the hallway. My first thought was that someone was at the wrong door. My second thought died the moment I opened it. Evan, my younger brother, stood there and barely upright. But it wasn't just that he came by. Unannounced at midnight, it was his face. His right eye was swollen shut, the skin around it already a deep, ugly purple. A gash across his cheekbone had dried into dark rust-colored streaks. His shirt collar was torn, hanging loose like someone had grabbed it and yanked with full force, and the worst were the marks on his neck, angry red. Fingerprints, clear as day, showing exactly where someone's hands had been, where someone had tried to choke him. "Jack," he rasped, voice cracked and raw. Then he collapsed. I caught him before he hit the floor, dragged him inside, slammed the door shut. His whole body trembled, violent, shaky breaths leaving him like he'd forgotten how to breathe. Altogether, what happened? "Evan, who did this?" My voice shook. I felt it. He couldn't speak at first. His jaw clenched. His chest hitched. Tears streamed down his face, not loud sobs, just silent, broken crying that made something inside me split open. When he finally forced the words out, it wasn't anger in his voice. It was heartbreak. It was her, Jack. It was Marissa. I caught her cheating. And when I tried to leave, she snapped. She tried to stop me. She attacked me. The room went still. Everything inside me went cold. That dangerous, heavy cold that comes before rage. Let me back up for a second. Let me tell you how we got here. Because this didn't start tonight. Nothing this catastrophic ever does. Evan and I are brothers, 2 years apart. After our parents died in a car crash when we were teens, we were raised by our grandmother. He was always the gentle one, patient, soft-spoken, believing the world had more good than evil. He became a high school counselor, the safe space in human form. I was the opposite, blunt, straightforward, a gym owner who sees through people fast and doesn't tolerate lies. He soothed things, confronted things. Then 3 years ago, Evan met Marissa, pretty, polished, smart, the kind of woman who knows exactly how to play the realm. The first time I saw her, something felt off. She clung to Evan's arm like it was property she was showing off. She smiled at everyone, but watched everyone like she was measuring them. Told Evan to slow down. He told me I was overprotective. We fought, really fought. The first serious argument we'd had in years, and slowly he drifted. Fewer calls, shorter texts, distance disguised as busy, classic isolation pattern. And now, he was broken in my living room at midnight, shaking, bruised, betrayed, because the woman he trusted more than anyone had cheated, and then tried to destroy him when he confronted her. This was the moment everything changed, for him and for me. I sat, Evan down on my couch, grabbed a first aid kit, and started cleaning the blood off his face. He winced every time the cotton pad touched his skin. "Slow down," he whispered. "I'm going slow," I said. I wasn't. My hands were shaking. With anger I was barely holding in. When I finished, he leaned back against the cushions, eyes unfocused, breathing like each inhale hurt. "Tell me everything," I said. He wiped his nose with the sleeve of his torn shirt. "It started months ago. Maybe longer. I don't know." That sentence alone made my jaw clench. He continued, voice barely above a whisper. "She stopped wanting to go out, stopped wanting to see family, stopped answering your calls. She said she was overwhelmed, tired, stressed." I believed her. He looked at me, eyes overflowing with shame. "I believed her because I loved her, Jack." "I know," I said. "And I did." And then, he continued, "She kept accusing me of things, asking where I was, who I talked to, why I didn't check my phone every hour." Classic projection. I'd seen this exact pattern a dozen times at the gym. Members who came in, broken after a controlling or cheating partner, flipped the script on them. But Evan was the guy who trusted everyone, until the knife was already in his back. He swallowed hard. 2 weeks ago, she started working late. Really late. Said there was pressure at the firm, deadlines, meetings. I didn't interrupt. I just nodded. Then she changed her passwords. Said her boss told everyone to update security. I didn't question it. I should have. His voice cracked. Tonight had destroyed whatever innocence was left in him. What happened tonight? I asked quietly. He closed his eyes, and the memory hit him so hard his entire body tensed. I drove home early from work. Surprise visit. I wanted to take her out for dinner. She loves that Italian place near the river. I even bought flowers. His voice broke. I was stupid. So stupid. No, I said sharply. You trusted your wife. That isn't stupid. He stared at the floor. When I opened the front door, I heard music upstairs and voices laughing, her laugh. But different. Like the laugh she used to have with me. My stomach sank. I went upstairs, he whispered, and I found her with another man in our bed, our bedroom. The words hung in the air like poison. Gripped the armrest so hard my knuckles went white. She looked at me, he said, and she didn't even look shocked. She just looked annoyed, like I'd interrupted her. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. And the guy? I asked. He ran, grabbed his clothes, and climbed out the window like a coward. Typical. But his voice faltered. She came at me. She kept screaming that I had no right to barge in, that I was controlling, that I'd ruined her happiness. My blood boiled. She pushed me, then slapped me. I backed away, told her I was leaving, that our marriage was over. His hands shook at the memory. That's when she grabbed me by the throat, he whispered, touching the red marks on his skin. She said I wasn't going anywhere. She said if I divorced her, she'd take everything. She said she'd ruin me. Then he broke. Right there on my couch, my strong brother, the one who forgave too easily, cried silently into his palms. I stared at him, at the bruises, at the betrayal etched across his face. That was the moment something inside me snapped. There's a specific type of anger that isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't break things. It gets quiet, cold, weaponized. That kind of anger is the one that ruins people. I stood up, slowly. Where is she now? I asked. He ran, grabbed his clothes, and climbed out the window like a coward. Typical. But his voice faltered. She came at me. She kept screaming that I had no right to barge in, that I was controlling, that I'd ruined her happiness. My blood boiled. She pushed me, then slapped me. I backed away, told her I was leaving, that our marriage was over. His hands shook at the memory. That's when she grabbed me by the throat, he whispered, touching the red marks on his skin. She said I wasn't going anywhere. She said if I divorced her, she'd take everything. She said she'd ruin me. Then he broke. Right there on my couch, my strong brother, the one who forgave too easily, cried silently into his palms. I stared at him, at the bruises, at the betrayal etched across his face. That was the moment something inside me snapped. There's a specific type of anger that isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't break things. It gets quiet, cold, weaponized. That kind of anger is the one that ruins people. I stood up, slowly. Where is she now? I asked. At home, he whispered. Probably with him. I nodded once. Mechanical. Good. Evan looked up confused. Jack, what are you going to do? I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. Whatever. I have to. Because this time, Evan wasn't forgiving anyone, and I wasn't either. Before I continue, tell, from which place are you watching this story right now? Please subscribe and like the video for motivation. I don't remember walking down the hallway to get my keys. Don't remember locking the door behind me. What I do remember is the silence, that heavy, cold silence that settles. And when your mind shifts from shock to purpose. Evan sat on my couch, looking up at me like the world had just collapsed. Jack, don't do anything stupid, he whispered. I paused at the door. Evan, I said quietly. The stupid thing would be letting this go. I left before he could say another word. Streetlights flashed over the windshield. Grip locked around the steering wheel. Jaw clenched so tight it felt like my teeth would crack. Every thought, every memory, every warning I ever gave him replayed in my head. I'd tried to tell him something was wrong. He didn't want to believe me because he loved her, and she used that love to destroy him. No porch, lights, no movement behind the curtains, just the soft glow from the Upstairs bedroom window, their bedroom where she had betrayed him, where she had told him he wasn't allowed to leave. The thought alone made something hot and violent burn behind my ribs. Killed the engine, stepped out, and walked up the driveway. I didn't knock. I used the spare key Evan had given me years ago, a small moment of trust he probably forgot about. The moment the door opened, I smelled it, perfume, wine, and something else. Cologne that didn't belong to Evan. My hands curled into fists, like she had cleaned up the mess of her betrayal and gone to bed without a single thought about the damage she caused. I moved through the hallway quietly. When I reached the stairs, I heard it, soft, muffled giggling. Woman's voice, her voice. She wasn't alone. She'd brought the guy back into the home. Evan built into the bed. Evan paid for my vision. Blurred with rage, not rushing, not breathing loudly, just moving with the kind of silent, controlled fury that doesn't explode. It destroys. Their bedroom door was slightly open. I pushed it. Inside, the lamp on the nightstand cast a soft glow across the room, and there she was, Marissa, hair messy, wrapped in a robe that didn't belong to her, sitting on the bed with a wine glass in her hand. Next to her, half-dressed, was the same guy Evan had described. They both turned toward me. She blinked. Once, twice, confusion, shock, anger. Jack? What the hell? Why are you in my house? She snapped. My house? I repeated, my voice low. Funny. Didn't realize cheating gave you full ownership. Her face twisted. Guy beside her stood up too fast, tripping over his own pants. Hey, man, calm down. He didn't get to finish. I stepped toward him so fast he stumbled backward. Sit down. I said he did. Even Marissa froze. She pointed her wine glass at me. You don't get to barge into my home and intimidate my guests. Evan would never allow this. I stepped closer into the light. Her mouth snapped shut when she saw the expression on my face. Just came from the hospital, I said. Her eyes widened. Good. Let her feel something, Evan. Didn't go to a hospital, she said, but her voice faltered. You're right, I said. He came to me first. Silence. He's bruised, I continued. Bleeding, shaking, with marks around his throat. Marissa swallowed, her hand trembling slightly around the wine glass. That wasn't. He tried to stop me. He grabbed me first, she stuttered. No, I cut in. He told me exactly what happened. He confronted you about cheating. You didn't deny it. And when he said he was done, you attacked him. Her face contorted with panic and fury. You think anyone will believe him? She hissed. I'll tell the police he assaulted me. He's a man. I'm a woman. They'll believe me. The room went ice cold. She believed that. She actually believed she could destroy him and walk away clean. I took a slow step toward her. Then another. She backed up until her legs hit the bed. Jack, she whispered. You're scaring me. Good. Her breath hitched. Because you know what scares me? I said, leaning in just enough that she couldn't look away. The fact that you thought you could beat my brother, cheat on him, threaten him, and then pretend you're the victim. The guy beside her shifted uncomfortably. Jack, bro, come on, he mumbled. I didn't even look at him. My eyes stayed on Marissa. You made a mistake, I said softly. A big one. Her voice trembled. What mistake? You didn't just betray him. I straightened up. You forgot he has me. Marissa opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The guy beside her, still half-dressed, looked from her to me like he was trying to figure out the smartest way to disappear too. Late for that, I reached into my jacket and pulled out Evan's cracked phone. I held it up between us. You know what this is? I asked. Marissa's eyes widened. She recognized it instantly. Where did you get that? She whispered. He dropped it on my floor, I said. Right before he collapsed. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. I tapped the screen. You know what else he dropped? I held her gaze. Your little secret. The room shifted, not physically, but atmospherically, like the temperature dropped 20 degrees. She tried to pull herself together, tried to put the composure back on her face, like makeup that suddenly wouldn't stick. Jack, whatever you think you know. I know everything. I turned the phone so she could see the open screen. Text messages, dozens of them. Screenshots, voice notes, photos, all from her, to the man sitting right next to her. Every poisonous word, every lie, every detail of their months-long affair. The guy on the bed flinched when he saw them. Marissa's face drained of color. This is illegal. You went through his phone? She stammered. No, I said calmly. He unlocked it himself, while his hands were shaking and his eye was swollen shut. He didn't trust himself to scroll, so he asked me to read it. I stepped closer. He asked me to help him see the truth he didn't want to see. Marissa tried to straighten. Her robe like that would somehow give her authority back. This doesn't change anything, she said, voice cracking. I can still tell the police he assaulted me. I cut her off with a short laugh, dark, humorless. Marissa, you ever stop to think what your boyfriend here might say if someone asked him under oath? The guy stiffened. Don't drag me into this, he said quickly. I didn't sign up for— You signed up the moment you climbed into a married woman's bed, I said without looking at him. Marissa rounded on him instantly. Don't you dare turn on me. Don't you— But he was already shaking his head. Look, I didn't know it was this messy, okay? You said you were separating— She scoffed. And you believed that? His jaw tightened, embarrassed. Good, let the shame sink in. I'm not here to hit anyone, I said. I'm not here to make threats. I'm here to give you a choice. Her breathing sped up. The guy nervously shifted as if preparing to bolt again. What choice? She demanded. I brought the phone closer. You're going to sign divorce papers. Her eyes widened with sudden, vicious fury. No, absolutely not. If he divorces me, I get half. I get the house. I get alimony. He owes me. My hands curled at my sides. Owes you? I repeated slowly. He owes you? She lifted her chin defiantly. I sacrificed for him. She spat. I stayed in this boring marriage. I supported him. I played the perfect wife while I took one long, deep breath. Marissa, I said, you cheated for months. You attacked him when he confronted you, and you forced him into silence with threats. That doesn't change the law, she snapped. And you can't prove anything. I stared at her, then I smiled, slow, controlled, cold, the kind of smile that means someone just made the worst mistake of their life. Actually, I said softly, I can. Her eyebrow twitched, that tiny flicker of panic returning. What are you talking about? She asked carefully. Lifted the phone again. You know those little microphones in iPhones? I tilted my head. They're surprisingly sensitive. Before she could process the meaning, I hit play. Recording started playing. Her voice clear, sharp, vicious. You think anyone will believe him? I'll tell the police he assaulted me. He's a man. I'm a woman. They'll believe me. The color drained from her face so fast she looked sick. The guy beside her whispered, oh crap. I paused the audio and tucked the phone into my jacket. Let me repeat your choices, I said quietly. 1. You signed the divorce papers. Evan's lawyer will send you tomorrow morning. No alimony, no property, no assets, nothing. Marissa shook her head violently. Never, I nodded. 2, I continued calmly. I take this recording and every message on this phone straight to the police, and then to your job, and then to every person in your social circle. Her breath hitched. And trust me, I said, leaning forward, a woman who lies about assault doesn't get sympathy. She froze. The guy next to her whispered, maybe you should just sign, Marissa. She shot him a look of pure hatred. Then she looked back at me. Fear now. Real fear. What's it gonna be? I asked. Her lips trembled. She opened her mouth and chose Marissa's. Hands shook as she reached for her robe, tugging it tighter around her body like that could protect her. Her chest heaved. Her eyes darted to the guy beside her, desperate for some ally. He shrank under her glare, clearly realizing he was in over his head. I'll sign, she whispered finally, barely audible, but it was enough. Nodded slowly. Good, that was all I needed. Tomorrow morning, I said, keeping my voice calm but cold. Evan's lawyer will deliver the documents. You sign them. No delays, no excuses. If you don't. I let the silence stretch. Her face went pale. She understood. Didn't need to finish the sentence. She knew exactly what "if you don't" meant. We stood there in the dimly lit room, the wine glass still clutched in her hand, the guy still shifting nervously beside her. Her arrogance had evaporated, her charm, her manipulations All of it gone. Stripped away by evidence she couldn't deny, by the truth she had tried to hide, by me. You, she said, voice trembling. You're not like him, I tilted my head. You mean the guy you cheated with? She flinched. Good. No, I continued. I'm not. I protect my family. I make sure the people I care about don't get hurt again. I reached into my jacket and placed the phone on the nightstand, screen, facing her, showing the full chat log, the recording ready to play. If she even thought about lying, I suggest you take this seriously, I said, because if Evan had faced this alone, he might have forgiven you. Or worse, he might have broken under it. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Fear had silenced her. For once in her life, you made him bleed, you attacked him, and you thought you could walk away with nothing. Not this time. I turned and left the room slowly, letting the tension hang behind me like a storm cloud. The guy beside her whispered something incoherent. She snapped at him, clearly still trying to regain some shred of control, but she couldn't. Not anymore. By the time Evan walked in, I was waiting in the living room, phone in hand, calm but alert. He looked at me, exhaustion etched across his bruised face. I did it, I said simply. What do you mean? He asked. I made her choice simple, I replied. Evan exhaled slowly, relief flooding him. I didn't want her to have that power over me, he admitted. Not anymore. Placed a hand on his shoulder. Then, you won't. She can threaten, manipulate, lie, but you won't be her victim again, not while I'm around. Evan's eyes glistened. Gratitude, relief, and something else. Hope. Hope that the woman who betrayed him could be contained, could face consequences, could no longer destroy him. The next morning, Marissa's lawyer arrived with divorce papers. She signed them, trembling, not looking. Evan in the eye, every word on those documents screamed defeat. No property, no assets, no alimony, nothing. Stayed in the background, letting Evan take the center. But the lesson had been clear. Cheating. Betrayal, violence. It didn't go unpunished, and anyone who thought they could intimidate my family learned very quickly. The crossing me came with consequences. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make threats. I didn't even touch her. All I did was give her a choice and make sure she knew what failure looked like. By the time I left the house, she had collapsed onto the bed, sobbing. The guy she had brought with her slunk out the door like a coward, and in that silence, Evan looked at me and said softly, "Thanks. I don't know how I'd have survived without you." I smiled faintly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You won't ever have to find out," I said, "not while I'm around," and with that, the nightmare she created for my brother had ended. Not with violence, not with rage, but with control, leverage, and the kind of justice that leaves no room for denial. The days that followed were quiet, but heavy. Marissa didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't dare show up at Evan's apartment. That silence was worse than any argument or scream. It was the sound of a predator, realizing the prey had teeth, the sound of someone who had believed themselves untouchable finally, understanding the consequences of crossing the wrong people. Stayed close to Evan, checking in every morning. He was still shaken, still bruised, but each day he grew stronger. Confidence returned, strength returned, and with it the sense that he didn't have to live in fear anymore. I also made sure Marissa knew, in very subtle ways, that her freedom to manipulate was gone. Every time she tried to call, I answered first, calm, neutral, and reminded her through voice and tone. Evan doesn't want to talk. Every lawyer's email. I copied directly to her, showing her that there was no secret, no hidden leverage. I left small reminders around her social circle, mutual friends, colleagues, just enough for her to realize her reputation would no longer protect her. She tried once, sent a long, venom-filled email full of lies about Evan and me. I printed it, highlighted the admissions she didn't realize she had included, sent it back to her lawyer. No response. Silence again. And that silence? It crushed her more than any shouting ever could. Jack understood something most people miss. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be explosive. Sometimes, the most devastating punishment is quiet, methodical, and inevitable. Marissa began to unravel. Her messages became frantic, desperate. Her attempts to reach out through friends, through the guy she cheated with, blocked. She realized every move she made only tightened the noose in Jack. I watched from the sidelines, ensuring Evan healed, while she slowly digested the consequences of her actions. Evan began to smile again. His laughter returned, soft at first, then stronger. The bruises faded. The memory of betrayal still haunted him, but now he felt safe, not because he'd forgiven her, not because he'd forgotten, because he knew. Without a doubt, he had someone watching his back, someone who wouldn't allow her to hurt him again. Weeks passed. Invitations to parties she once dominated, ignored. Messages from friends who had taken her side slowly dwindled. Her colleagues. She became cautious, isolated. The man she had cheated with vanished, leaving her to face the consequences alone. She realized something crucial. Her power was gone. The person she had thought would bend to her manipulation. Evan wasn't the one she needed to fear. It was Jack, and that truth hit harder than any court ruling, any confrontation, any angry word. One evening, Evan sat across from me, sipping coffee. "Jack," he said quietly, "I don't know how to thank you." I shrugged, pretending it was nothing. "It's nothing," I said. "You didn't ask for this. You didn't deserve it. But now she knows. She'll never try to hurt you again." He nodded. Finally at peace. I smiled faintly, knowing this was the real victory. Not revenge and anger, not revenge and violence, revenge and control, strategy and inevitability. And for Marissa, the lesson was simple. You don't cross my family. You don't hurt my brother. And if you do, there will always be someone ready to make sure you pay, quietly, completely and permanently. Jack had done more than protect his brother. He had sent a message that would last a lifetime. And Marissa? Her world had crumbled silently, leaving her to face the consequences of every lie, every betrayal, and every violent act she had thought she could get away with. I watched from the car as Marissa's house sat in silence, the way a predator studies its prey before striking. She thought the war was over. She thought the storm had passed. But storms aren't announced. They arrive. The next morning, the divorce papers were signed. Not because she wanted to, but because she had no choice. Every attempt at manipulation had been anticipated. Every lie countered with cold precision. Her threats meant nothing. Every move she made now only exposed her further. The arrogance she had worn like armor had crumbled entirely, leaving her raw, vulnerable, and aware for the first time that she had underestimated the consequences. Never raised my voice. I never threatened her with physical harm. I didn't need to. Power isn't loud. Power is inevitability. And by the time the documents were delivered, by the time her friends and colleagues received the carefully curated truth she had worked so hard to hide, she understood that her world had shifted irreversibly. The man she had thought powerless, the one she had betrayed and attacked, was protected. And the protector wasn't someone she could reason with, charm, or manipulate. Every glance she cast at her phone, every whispered attempt to reach out was met with silence. Every scheme, every desperate message fell flat. Her carefully constructed life, built on manipulation and deceit, had collapsed under the weight of truth and meticulous planning. And the one person who had orchestrated it all, quiet, controlled, methodical, had made it unmistakably clear: betrayal comes at a cost. By the end, she was alone in her house, stripped of influence, stripped of leverage, stripped of control. Her accomplice had vanished, and the consequences of her actions were inescapable. The fear in her eyes wasn't just about the divorce, the exposure, or the ruin of her reputation. It was something deeper, the understanding that some mistakes aren't survivable, that some actions summon forces capable of dismantling everything you've ever taken for granted. I never celebrated. There was no gloating, no victory dance. My satisfaction was quiet, deep, and unwavering. The storm had passed, yes, but it had left an unmistakable mark. She knew, once and for all, that the consequences of her choices weren't negotiable, that betrayal has a price, and that the price, in her case, would be remembered, privately, painfully, permanently. Evan didn't have to say a word. The relief, the gratitude, the weight lifted from his shoulders was enough. He was free, and I had delivered the lesson that she, Marissa, would carry for the rest of her life. Not just a warning, not just a punishment, but a demonstration of what happens when you cross someone who doesn't forgive lightly and who doesn't forget. The world moved on around us. Life went back to its rhythm. But in that quiet, controlled victory, one thing was undeniable. Some actions are irreversible. Some betrayals are unforgettable. And some protectors are relentless. She had learned that the hard way.